He had everything: the trophies, the family, the world at his feet. But one secret shattered it all. In 2009, Tiger Woods was the king of golf and the symbol of perfection, until one night, a car crash outside his home revealed a double life of betrayal, addiction, and lies. This is not just a cheating story. This is the anatomy of a fall and the price of pretending to be perfect. Tiger Woods didn't just play golf. He redefined it. By the early 2000s, he had broken nearly every record imaginable. The youngest Masters champion, the first African American to win the tournament, the face of billion-dollar endorsement deals. He wasn't just a golfer. He was a global icon, a brand built on discipline, humility, and perfection. In 2004, he married Ellen Nordegren, a Swedish model and former nanny. They had two beautiful children. Their public image radiated peace, a picture-perfect family living the American dream. But beyond the lens, something darker was growing. Tiger had been raised to win, not to feel. Trained from the age of two by his father Earl, Tiger's emotional development was sacrificed for greatness. Every hour of his life was mapped out for excellence. There was no space for vulnerability, no room for mistakes. That kind of pressure builds cracks in the soul. And eventually, those cracks would break wide open. Tiger Woods didn't stumble into greatness. He bled for it. His childhood was a military-style operation of drills, analysis, and competition. His father Earl was both mentor and tyrant, believing Tiger's purpose was divine, that he'd change the world through golf. That burden shaped Tiger into the ultimate competitor. He learned to suppress pain, ignore distraction, and stay in control. But as his fame skyrocketed, so did the loneliness. He wasn't partying like other athletes. He wasn't reckless in public. But privately, his emotional void grew deeper. Golf was a battlefield. Home was supposed to be his safe place. Ellen provided stability, grace, and love. But Tiger wasn't fully present. He couldn't be. Not with the mask he was forced to wear. When he traveled for tournaments, the temptation became overwhelming and unchecked. He began cheating. Once, then again, and again. At first, it was thrill, then validation. Eventually, it became a secret lifestyle, one he compartmentalized with surgical precision. Some of his closest friends, assistants, even security staff allegedly knew, but said nothing. "I thought I was untouchable," Tiger later admitted. "I thought I could lie to everyone and get away with it." This wasn't about sex. It was about control, and pain, and the desire to feel powerful in a life that was tightly managed since birth. But behind every affair was a man seeking to feel something, anything outside the pressure cooker of perfection. Deep down, Tiger feared he was loved only for what he achieved, not for who he was. Each affair was not just a betrayal of his vows, it was a silent scream for identity, a desperate attempt to rebel against the system that built him. He knew it was wrong. He knew the risks. But the numbness was worse than guilt. And in the twisted logic of emotional survival, betrayal became escape. What the public saw as arrogance was often a shield. His charm, a mechanism, the carefully timed smile for cameras, a habit of survival. Tiger was never taught to say, "I'm scared" or "I'm hurt." Instead, he was taught to swing harder, push further, dominate. But domination in sport doesn't translate to love. And in his silence, Tiger learned to seek comfort through conquest, comfort that unraveled everything he thought he controlled. It began unraveling on Thanksgiving night, 2009. Around 2:30 a.m., Tiger's SUV crashed into a fire hydrant outside his home. The world woke to the bizarre headline, but the truth behind that crash unraveled even faster. Just days prior, tabloids leaked Tiger's affair with nightclub hostess Rachel Lucatel. The story exploded. Tiger tried to contain it, sending apologetic voicemails, urging her to deny everything. But it was too late. Ellen found the messages. She confronted him. Witnesses say she struck him. He fled the house. The crash wasn't an accident, it was an emotional detonation. Then came the wave. One woman, then 5, then 10. By the end, over a dozen women had come forward, waitresses, adult film stars, escorts, neighbors, all claiming they had secret affairs with Tiger during his marriage. Some shared photos, some had texts, others described exact encounters in hotels and private homes. The stories were lurid. Some women said he flew them out on private jets, changing rooms next to his during tournaments. Others revealed that he used burner phones, fake names, and coded messages. It wasn't sloppy, it was systematized. Controlled. The media feasted. Headlines screamed. Late-night comedians tore him apart. Even respected journalists called it the greatest fall from grace in modern sports. For weeks, it was all anyone talked about. And for the first time, Tiger Woods, the man who had been invincible, was reduced to a punchline. What made it worse was the contrast. Tiger wasn't just a superstar, he was a role model. A mixed-race athlete breaking barriers. A father. A husband. A symbol of clean living. So when the truth came out, it wasn't just infidelity. It was betrayal on a mythic level. The public didn't just feel shocked, they felt personally deceived. And the media, smelling blood, chased the downfall with gleeful cruelty. Tabloids published transcripts. TV networks reenacted scenes. Anonymous insiders sold private details. It was no longer a story. It was a feeding frenzy. Nike stood by him barely. But Gatorade, Accenture, AT&T, and Gillette all dropped him. He issued a public apology. I was unfaithful. I had affairs. I cheated. What I did was not acceptable, but it wasn't enough. The perfect mask had shattered, and behind it stood a broken man. The fallout wasn't just public, it was personal, existential, and spiritual. Tiger didn't just lose endorsements, he lost the illusion of control. What he built with precision came undone with chaos. His carefully curated life, sculpted from childhood, collapsed under the weight of his secrets. The press dubbed it the year the king fell. Paparazzi camped outside his home. News helicopters followed his every move. Sports analysts debated whether his career was over. Mental health experts were invited on TV to dissect his compulsions. His name became synonymous with scandal, and his silence only fueled the fire. At home, the tension was unbearable. Ellen moved out with their children. She shielded them from cameras, but not from the rupture. Tiger, once stoic and disciplined, was now unraveling emotionally. He checked into a sex addiction rehab facility in Mississippi. For the first time in decades, he wasn't practicing swings, he was confronting shame. On the golf course, it was worse. His confidence vanished. His swing mechanics failed him. Once surgical and steady, now he was erratic and insecure. He missed cuts. He withdrew from tournaments. His ranking plummeted. At one point, he was outside the top 1,000 in the world, a laughable fate for the once unbeatable icon. But the worst damage was internal. Tiger admitted to friends that he didn't know who he was anymore. Without golf, without the applause, without the mask, who remained? Not the brand, not the prodigy, just a flawed man with regrets, children, and a long road back. He started journaling privately, writing about identity, fatherhood, loneliness, and self-worth. Some entries, later leaked to the press, revealed a man who no longer wanted to be a symbol, just a man seeking peace. He kept photos of his kids on his phone's lock screen, not to display, but to remind himself of the only legacy that truly mattered. The Tiger that emerged from the ruins was quieter, humbled, less obsessed with control. He no longer chased perfect image, only internal clarity. And maybe, in losing everything, he finally discovered something real. Tiger's journey wasn't just about redemption in golf. It was a brutal awakening to everything he had neglected in his pursuit of success. When the applause stopped and the lights dimmed, what echoed loudest was silence, and in that silence, truth finally had space to speak. He began to confront the emotional poverty of his upbringing. How his father had built him into a machine but never taught him to process pain. How winning had become his love language, and failure, even moral failure, felt like the only way to rebel. He realized he had been emotionally illiterate, skilled at strategy, clueless about intimacy. In interviews post-scandal, Tiger spoke less about golf and more about parenting. He admitted he didn't want his children to grow up fearing mistakes. He started therapy not to save his brand, but to save himself. And slowly, painfully, he began to strip away the myth and meet the man beneath. Reflection came in waves, often in pain. Watching old videos of himself made him cringe, not out of shame, but recognition. I didn't know that guy, he confessed to a biographer. He was in control of everything except himself. There was no single turning point, no dramatic moment of clarity, just a series of quiet, humbling realizations. Like when his daughter asked him why people said bad things about him. Or when a stranger on the street said, "You're more human now." Those moments didn't hurt, they healed. Because finally, Tiger wasn't hiding behind greatness. He was growing into it. His return to golf wasn't a redemption arc, it was a return to roots. He stopped chasing history and started playing for joy. The 2019 Masters win wasn't just a trophy, it was a symbol of inner alignment. His swing was calmer, his demeanor gentler. He smiled more. He talked about sleep, meditation, being a father. The man who once needed to dominate now found strength in surrender. Tiger Woods, the icon, had cracked. But Tiger Woods, the human, was beginning to form. And in that transformation, millions saw themselves as flawed, healing trying. His fall had once disappointed the world, but his quiet climb back, that inspired it. He began mentoring young golfers not with technique, but with life advice. He talked about resilience, about forgiving yourself, about the traps of ambition. He no longer saw competition as a battlefield, it was a classroom. And that shift changed not just how he played, but how he lived. He also rebuilt relationships he had once pushed away. Former friends, estranged family members, people he had hurt not just through scandal, but through years of emotional distance. He called them. He visited. He apologized. Not to be liked again, but to be real. And many forgave him not because they forgot, but because they saw he had changed. Behind the scenes, Tiger became an advocate for mental health in sports. Quietly, he funded therapy programs for youth athletes. He spoke to coaches about balancing pressure with compassion. He never made it a PR campaign. He didn't need to. His actions spoke louder than headlines. For the first time, Tiger was no longer performing for the world. He was listening to his own life. He found meaning not in applause, but in authenticity. And in that, he discovered something he had been chasing all along: not victory, but peace. He began to redefine success not by numbers or fame, but by presence. Could he be fully present at his kid's soccer game? Could he sit through a quiet dinner without checking his phone? These became the new measures of his strength. In private, he journaled about letting go of guilt, of legacy, of his need to be exceptional. He wrote about being enough, not as a golfer, but as a father, a man, a flawed human who finally made space for grace. He started giving talks at youth centers, not with cameras around, but in anonymous rooms where no one asked for autographs. He shared how winning can isolate you if you're not grounded, how chasing approval is a game you never win, and how honesty, brutal and comfortable honesty, is the first step toward healing. There were still moments of struggle, days he felt the pull of his old self, the perfectionist, the performer. But he learned to breathe through it, to reach out, to remember he was no longer alone in this. Tiger Woods' fall from grace was spectacular, but his quiet, patient rebuild has been even more profound. What began as public disgrace has slowly become a private triumph. Not because he reclaimed his title, but because he reclaimed himself. He is no longer the man who chased perfection at the cost of his soul. He is a man who learned that love cannot be earned through trophies, that peace cannot be bought with applause, and that healing begins when you face what hurts. In a world obsessed with image, Tiger's journey reminds us that vulnerability is not weakness, it is courage. That the strongest thing a man can do is not to win but to admit where he failed, and choose to rise again. His story is no longer about scandal. It's about rebuilding, about choosing honesty over reputation, substance over illusion. It's about becoming whole. And in that, he teaches us all something deeper, that no fall is final, that redemption is real, and that becoming human is the most powerful legacy you can leave behind. He now lives with less noise, fewer headlines, and far more clarity. He no longer wakes up to prove something. He wakes up to be something, present, connected, at peace. His life is quieter, but more complete. The lesson isn't just in his return, it's in how he came back. With humility, with openness, with the willingness to be seen, not as a champion, but as a man who failed and dared to grow. That's what makes this story unforgettable. Not the drama of the fall, but the grace of the climb, the honesty of the healing, and the message that redemption isn't earned through applause but through intention, effort, and truth. He no longer needs validation to feel whole. The cheers from the crowd have been replaced by quiet mornings with his children, honest conversations, and the slow, sacred work of rebuilding a life from the inside out. To the world, he was once a fallen hero. But now, he stands as something more powerful, a man who faced his darkest truths and chose to become better. And in that, he's offered us more than a comeback story. He's offered a human one. This transformation wasn't a scripted redemption arc, it was a personal reckoning lived out under the microscope of the media. But its power lies in its rawness. Tiger didn't just change his image, he changed his relationship with himself. He's no longer chasing ghosts of perfection or haunted by public judgment. He's anchored in the present, driven by fatherhood, clarity, and a deeper understanding of who he is beyond the fairways. We often define greatness by wins and titles, but perhaps Tiger's greatest achievement is this quiet, steady rebirth, the act of turning pain into growth and shame into purpose. The man we once watched dominate the course is now teaching us something far more valuable, that true strength lies not in never falling, but in how we rise after we do. While the world fixated on Tiger's downfall, Alan Nordegren lived through a very different kind of pain, quiet, private, and deeply personal. As Tiger's wife and the mother of his children, her world didn't just fracture under the weight of betrayal, it imploded. Ellen had never sought the spotlight. A former model from Sweden, she had always preferred privacy over press, family over fame. So when the media frenzy surrounding Tiger's affairs exploded, she found herself trapped in a global firestorm she never asked for. Her face was plastered across headlines, her pain speculated on by strangers, and her integrity questioned by tabloids. But instead of retaliating, Ellen chose silence. Not weakness, dignity. In a world that profits off rage and scandal, her restraint became her power. While others chased interviews, she chose therapy. While the public dissected her marriage, she focused on protecting her children. In a rare interview years later, she admitted the betrayal shook her to her core. She had believed in the family they built, in the love she thought was real. The revelations didn't just hurt, they made her question everything: her worth, her judgment, her future. But through that pain, she chose not bitterness but rebuilding. She went back to school, earned a psychology degree, and began carving out a life on her own terms. She created a stable, quiet home for her kids. She didn't drag Tiger through public shame. She didn't use the scandal for leverage. Instead, she became a living example of resilience without revenge. Their relationship evolved, not as lovers, but as co-parents committed to their children. Ellen later said she and Tiger were in a good place. It wasn't reconciliation, it was mutual respect forged from shared responsibility and years of healing. Her story is often lost beneath the noise of Tiger's, but Ellen's journey matters. It's a reminder that in the aftermath of betrayal, dignity is a choice. And sometimes, the strongest statement is not in shouting but in standing tall, rebuilding silently, and living well. In many ways, Ellen's quiet strength gave the story its balance. Where Tiger showed us how to fall and rise, Ellen showed us how to endure, let go, and walk forward with grace. Now, we turn it over to you. What do you think? Do you believe people who cheat can truly change? Would you ever forgive someone after such betrayal? Can love survive that level of broken trust, or should it even try? Ellen chose dignity. Tiger chose redemption. But in between those choices, there were years of pain, therapy, reflection, and growth. Have you ever witnessed a story of betrayal turn into a journey of healing, or lived through one yourself? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read every one. If this story made you feel something, share it, like it, subscribe to Lies Unveiled. Because here, we don't just expose betrayal. We decode it. We reflect on it. We learn from it. And maybe, in doing so, we find our own path to healing too.